96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Them sung to the music of Gustav Holst.
Good morning and welcome to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. You know my voice, it's Leyvon Miller. Hallelujah, it's Friday. We all made it. Thank goodness. I don't know. They say I shouldn't say what you people do, but I don't know what people do. Is that better? At 11 o'clock, but whatever it is that you do, I'm happy that you do, and that you do it with me. You've heard the music. You know what we're doing. It's all throughout the month of May. We are coming to the end of the story told of the HMBS Flamingo. May 10th, it is the day that we now know to be the fateful day of the Flamingo sinking, the incident we now refer to as the HMBS Flamingo. And we're trying, as best as I can at least, to see if we can continue to ensure that the story is told in a way that it is never forgotten. And so, just a small recap. We have heard from surviving members of the crew, some of them at least. And I must say that some of them have still declined to be interviewed, which then leads me to believe that we must do more, right? But so far we've heard from both captains, Anthony Allen and Whitfield Neely. We've heard from retired Force Chief Petty Officer Greg Spooks Curry. We've heard from retired Able Seaman Gladwell Farrington. We've also had an opportunity to hear from, recently as last week, Sebastian Campbell, Father Sebastian Campbell, that is, who is not a member of the Flamingo, but who is somebody that is responsible for the National Heroes Honors Committee, and who is now the organizer for what is hoped to be the Red Mass service that is to be held annually for the commemoration of the HMBS Flamingo. We've also heard from Mr. Arnold Wilson, historian, cataloger of the event, someone that has kept in explicit detail almost every single piece of published information surrounding the HMBS Flamingo. So for those of you that are school students, college students, and from time to time may find yourselves in need of information, I would recommend you go and see Arnold Wilson. The man has the first of everything ever, first in the Bahamas catalog. It is quite an impressive and quite an expansive catalog. I want to say a special good morning to him. We've also had the opportunity to hear from one Mr. Gary Lord Roll, who would have been the responding police officer on the day of May 10th, 1980, who would have been the officer in charge of Ragged Island, Exuma, Ragged Island, and the Keys. And so he, along with Pilot Nixon, Captain Nixon, flew down to Ragged Island, and you recall he tells the story of having seen the helicopter that had been the biggest helicopter he'd ever seen in his life, and how he, in fear for his life, dug a hole with his hands and tried to get underneath the coconut tree. We also would like to, though, consider the fact that after the incident, and I want to invite you all now, please, Monday's interview you do not want to miss. I think it's going to be quite an interesting interview. It is the last in the series that I'm doing. And I think I have a special goodie in store for you all, which is about as much as I can say. So go tell Mama, go tell Daddy, tell Titter, Uncle Bola, and the rest that they do not want to miss Guardian Radio as Leyvon Miller's Unleash on their radio Monday, coming for the final interview surrounding the HMBS Flamingo for this dispensation, of course. Next year, who knows what creative wonderfulness we will come up with. Okay, but outside of that, these men, they've gone on to live lives. I will give you their names now so that you can recall them whenever you hear them. And so if you do know them and you see them in your passing, you ought always tip your hat to soldiers, to men that have bore the price of mental instability, medical instability, possibly even financial instability, all in the name of service of country. Men that obviously prove that they were prepared to risk bronze and blood in service to God and country. All right, and so their names are Amos Roll, Anthony Allens, Wilfred Sands, Peterson James, Denzel Clark, Eugene Thompson, Gregory Curry, Whitfield Neely, Oscar Miller, Anthony K. Roll. You may know him as AK. I knew the man for about 15 years before I knew his name was Anthony. The only thing I'd ever heard anyone ever call him, both in his official capacity and in his recreational life, was AK. So in case you know AK Russell, he happens to be a member of the HMBS Flamingo. Then, of course, there's Leo Kirby, John Wallace, Cladwell Farrington, Willard Saunders, Trevor Sands, and then, of course, there is the four faithfully departed, Fenric Starb, David Tucker, Austin Smith, and Edward Williams. And there's a wonderful display of the four fallen in the city square, in the People's Square, that is. You can go and have a look at and see what is to be said there about them. These men are all holders of traumatic medals. Among them is Mr. Whitfield Neely, now Captain Whitfield Neely, who happens to also be the holder of a Medal of Gallantry. He, along with Amos Roll, and of course Anthony Allens, all holders of the Medal of Gallantry. But outside of their time in service as soldiers, outside of their time in service, whether it was 5 years, 3 years, 25 years, or in the case of Mr. Neely, 42 years, ending his career as the most decorated man in the uniform and the longest serving member of the HMBS Flamingo. They went on to lead family lives, right? And I thought it necessary to speak to the children, or in this case, the child, because I can't seem to get the son of Amos Roll on the phone. He was supposed to join me this morning, Jason Roll from Turks and Caicos. And but I do have online with me C.G. Neely, who is the daughter of Whitfield Neely, and I think she is the eldest child of Whitfield Neely, not yet born during the time of the HMBS Flamingo. And she joins me on the hard line this morning. C.G., are you there? Good morning. Now, I think I can hear you in my producer room. I don't hear you in my headset. Let's try it again. C.G., are you with me?
I'm with you. Good morning.
Good, perfect. You sound so wonderful. This is how you always sound in the morning?
Always.
Oh, wow. That's so amazing. So, CG, tell us, how old are you?
36.
36. So Flamingo is about 6 years before you.
Come on, Leyvon.
Here's what I'm trying to figure out.
It was 4 years.
4 years. It's 40. No, it had to be 5 years because Flamingo is
Well,
41
yeah.
years. Okay.
1980.
Yeah.
I born 1984. Come on.
So 4 years and some silvers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so you got an opportunity. You're your father's first child, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so after the Flamingo incident, your daddy kind of had children. When did you discover that your daddy was Whitfield Neely? Like, when did that
hero?
realization come into your consciousness for you?
Well, I found out about it the same time you did
Mm-hmm.
with the rest of our squad mates.
Mm-hmm.
That day when they allowed us they had some of the survivors come and speak to us.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been the very first time that I had learned about the sinking of the HMBS Flamingo. Can you imagine that?
And how old were you?
When did I join the job? About 19.
So for 19 years, your father uttered not a word about his involvement in the
I
HMBS
had
Flamingo.
no idea. Now, I'm not sure if he may have said it in passing, around me or something, or spoken about it, but I had no idea about it.
Mm.
Just like how the rest of you were sitting there learning about this, it was the same for me.
Mm. And throughout your life as a child, do you imagine, like now that you are aware of what has happened with the Flamingo, do you ever look back and say, well, maybe that is why my dad did this thing, or maybe that is why my dad was this way? Was there ever any sort of, looking retrospectively, any sort of hint that maybe he became the man he was as a result of?
Well, actually, no. Like, I never experienced anything from him or being around him that would have made me think that, okay, maybe something happened.
Mm-hmm.
He's always been who he is now.
Mm-hmm.
To me, even as a father after all these years,
Mm-hmm.
growing up, he's just been who he is.
Mm-hmm.
I always know him to be going to work, the sea time, doing what he has to do, but it never came off as if something had happened.
Mm-hmm.
So sitting there learning about this was kind of like, how did this man do it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how was he able to just go on with his life? And for me, of course, my siblings would have known about it later, well, sooner than I did, because they found out sooner.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no idea. And that gave me an even added respect for him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he took nothing away from us. And he never made me feel as if, okay, maybe you need, sometimes like maybe you need to loosen up, or why are you so strong, like what's going on, but nothing.
Right.
He was always the disciplined man that he was. He was always there when I needed him. He was very strict when he was ready, but he knew how to speak. He knew how to show that love and that attention that I needed as a father. So you would have not known coming up with him, growing up with him, that this happened.
Mm-hmm. And when you heard about it, you're a 19-year-old girl. You hear, that your daddy is Whitfield Neely. I guess at this point, the great Whitfield Neely, who according to Captain Anthony Allen's, by the way, accounts that he gave your father instructions to go and get the boys, and your daddy jumped into a rubber dory,
Yeah.
and began picking people up out of the water. Is that seen in his everyday life? Like, do you still see that level of cavalier behavior from him?
Still. Even with the rest of us and there's something needs to be done, you don't have to worry about it. He's going to go head first into it. Everything he does.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that just was who he was then, and that is still who he is now.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes some people have to develop into this being.
Right.
For him, he's always been destined to be who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't expect, when I heard it, it almost was like, wow. But for me, it was like, I get it now.
Yeah.
This is who you are.
Yeah. So, okay, tell us a little bit about what was the realization, though? Like, when you discover at 19 that, wow, my daddy is actually Whitfield Neely. like you've already alluded to, you have spent some time in the service.
Yes.
Following in that wake, what is that like? How does that translate in your mind?
Well, initially, when I attempted to join the job, when I had put in my paperwork and all of that, I did not let my dad know. I was a college student, and I told him, okay, Daddy, guess what? I don't think I feel in college right now. I'm going to work. Started to work for the Bahamas Fast Ferries, and I put in my papers for the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. Now, of course, I didn't want to let him know because I was almost certain he would have tried to stop me. And it was just, I'm going up there. And then I started realizing some people are quite familiar with me.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, oh, this Neely daughter. I'm like, okay, yeah, this me. And it was a Sunday dinner. Never forgot it, because we always sat at the dinner table on Sundays. Say your prayers, eat your food, talk about your week. And he just randomly said, CJ, I understand you're trying to join the Royal Defense Force. I was like, yes. Are you sure that's something you want to do? I was like, yes. So you do know that you're going to be making some sacrifices. And I'm like, yeah, getting a job. I'm still, at this point, I still don't know. Probably in his mind, he's thinking you have no idea what you're probably signing up for.
Yeah, what if they shoot at you from the plane? You know they shoot at you from the plane?
So I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm just thinking, I'm going to be a Marine. So it was after I joined, and in training, I started to get a little bit of this extra flack from these people. Like,
yeah, I recall.
So you're Neely's daughter.
Oh, this Lieutenant Neely's daughter.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And I'm like, okay, now, but I didn't even tell any of you people who my parents are. And it just started to follow. And if you remember, we had an instructor who would call me Lieutenant Recruit. Because at that time, my dad was a lieutenant.
Yeah.
So it started to follow me. And, of course, my demeanor and my actions were always going to be watched, or I would have had some expectations because of where I come from and who my dad was. So I always tried my best to stay clear of it, actually. I had no problem saluting my dad, passing him. I tried to make it as professional as I could make it because of who he was and what was possibly expected by others when they see us together and how it is. I never wanted it to be this, whatever she gets or however she becomes because of her dad. Always kept it 100 with me.
Did he ever try to give you like preferential treatment? I mean, he was with Phil Neely.
And I think, and that is why I respect him so much, because even outside of it, like when we come home or if I talked about something, before he weighs in on it, he would tell me, contact this person, talk to them about it, or maybe you should take this route. But he's never pushed. And that's because of the character. That is because of the man that he is. And so I said the whole ordeal and everything that he has been through, it was just aligned to be that person to experience that at that moment.
Now
was just him.
You've had an occasion that I don't think any other surviving member of the Flamingo has had. You actually have sailed with your father.
Indeed.
Yeah, he used to be a navigations officer, was he?
Well, he was not originally our NO.
Okay.
This was HMB's Bahamas. While I was there, we didn't have an NO for that particular trip. Maybe our NO was on vacation or something, but he sailed along with us.
Okay.
Now, that is totally out of the norm or what should happen, but it happened. And it was quite prestigious because the then captain, that would be Talis Basso, who would have also been our
training officer.
Right. And he took so much pride in having my dad on board with us that he took us near Key Sal, I think it was, and made sure that we got a photo in front of the key. And we had my dad once again give us a little rundown on the incident that night. He was like, this is history. I need this. And up to today, I still have the photo.
All right.
thanks to, I think it was Chief Alan Francis.
Okay.
So I still have that. And of all the moments that I've had with my dad, on the job, outside the job, that is one that I have actually been able to cherish.
Right, because you got to take that picture somewhere around the area.
Yes.
That is the flamingo. Yeah. And okay, so here's the other question. As you move along, as you get to watch him, as you watch him go into, I guess, the twilight years of his life, he's 62 now, I think it is. You see the man evolving. Do you ever imagine what life may have been like had he been a Fenric Stirrup, had he been an Austin Smith, had he been a David Tucker? Do you ever wonder to yourself, what if, what if it was my daddy?
Well, that would not have been me. There would be no me.
Right, because you weren't around.
Because, that is another reason why I appreciate the man in the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's my very existence right now.
Mm-hmm.
So had it not panned out the way it did, I would not have been here today. I would not have been able to experience all of the things that I've experienced. I would not have had the siblings that I've had. I would not have had this particular life here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always grateful for that. I look at him every day and I'm like, if some people only know how strong this man is,
mm-hmm.
this is a man who has endured a lot. You may not know, but when you speak with him, when you look at him, you'll be like, this man carries a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about burdens, but he's just a decent man all around.
Have you met any of the siblings of the others on the crew?
No, I
Not
haven't.
the siblings, the offspring.
Mr. Clark, I think he was the nephew.
The nephew of Fenric Stirrup.
Mistaken.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I was familiar with Miska, and then I just know of other persons, family-wise, but never any of the kids.
Mm. Do you ever wonder why it took 19 years for him to ever talk about the incident, even with you, his eldest child?
I have. I still do, but I don't push because I know it sometimes, they may not say, but it can become wearisome on them. Mm-hmm. So always having to rehatch it, it's good. But for some, these people actually went through this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them were close to, this could have been me losing my life.
Right.
And I don't want to question as to why you never spoke about it.
Mm-hmm.
At this point in my life, I'm happy that I was able to learn about it and still have you here. So I wondered about it, of course, but I've never asked, well, Daddy, why you never spoke about it? I don't feel like it's my place to question him as to why.
Mm.
I know the story. I'm always going to know the story. And I make sure my son knows the story.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm fine with him keeping that little bit.
Mm.
However it came out, it's good. Because, like I said, I now know. But that's his.
Mm-hmm.
That's his little bit of, okay, maybe that was his way of propelling and keep on moving.
You have had the occasion to be in service, so you understand what his decorations mean. They teach you the sanctitude of these decorations, right? These are the things that men risk life and limb, sweat and blood in order to get. Your daddy is the most decorated man in the uniform.
Yeah.
When you see him, when you see the skipper dressed in all of his colors, right? He's got more colors, I tell you, than an inaugural voyage of a ship, quite honestly. Mm-hmm. But when you see him dressed, fully regaled in his colors, what is the sentiment, the thought that's happening in your mind? This is the man that held you on his lap and burped you and walked you and held your hand your first day at, what was that, St. Cecilia? And walked you all throughout your childhood. Now, as somebody in the service, as somebody that understands what it takes to even get these medals and honors and that sort of stuff, you see the skipper fully regaled. What's happening in your mind?
Okay, Leyvon, first, I went to C.W. Sawyer Primary School.
Sawyer. Why did I say St. Cecilia? I thought you were Catholic.
Oh, Sano went to St. Cecilia, and so did Colin.
Okay.
But no, C.W. Sawyer Primary School. Well, whenever he's like that, first things first, I get this overwhelming sense of pride.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people literally don't get it when I say, my dad is a hero, my dad is an actual hero. And he's not just a hero for me, he's a hero for our nation.
Right.
So that's a huge title.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it. You hear me? Leyvon, I love to see him in it. Like, you people, like, I like, a lot of you just don't get it. This isn't just someone who's walking around dressed in his uniform. This is a man who is carrying a lot of accomplishments, a lot of sacrifices. These medals that these officers get, they're not just, oh, they spent some time there, they did some stuff. This is what their lives were. This is what a lot of their lives are. So it's a sense of pride all around. Each time, anytime I see any photo I have of him, it's always pride.
Do you find yourself having? I heard you say that you're now telling the story to your son. Is it something that is unfathomable for him to conceive, like that Papa? Because nobody calls anybody granddaddy anymore. That
Poppy, yes.
that Papa has gone through this. That this is what the value of his grandfather's life is worth. That this is where his lineage comes from. That this is who he kind of gets his girth from, if any at all.
Honestly, I think kids are so much different than we were then, like back then. This child of mine is so laid back. The other day, actually May 10th, and I was speaking to him about it, and he was in class, so I was like, what are you guys talking about today? They were having a history class, and he's like, something about the trade, transatlantic trade. I was like, what? Do you guys know about the sinking of the ancient Navy? He said, well, I know about it because of Poppy, but we don't get to talk about it much. We don't talk about it at all. I was like, still, like, for me, it is still amazing that this is not something that is taught in schools more. Like, this is our history. So I think he understands the weight that it carries, but he doesn't, it isn't a part of, I guess, school life learning outside of just us. And yeah, that's my Poppy, and he knows when May 10th comes around, that recognition and who he is. But it still isn't like that aha moment in his head as yet. I think maybe it's the older he gets, the more he learns about it, the deeper he goes into it. Maybe he'll get to feel like, okay, this is big. But for him, his Poppy survived. He's here.
Praise the Lord. That's all we
Praise
care.
the Lord, right?
Yeah. So, okay, so now at, what is it now? How much time do we have? 18 years? At 18 years of service,
Almost.
having not ever done or having not had as traumatic as an experience, when you find yourself in seagoing billets, possibly even in billets where you have to be deployed for whatever the reason, do you ever wonder to yourself whether or not this might be your one? Since you've lived so close to the experience?
My whole time on the boat, that was the way that my mind was set up. Like, for the most part, everybody was like, we're so used to, we know where we're going to go. We know, okay, we're probably going to end up somewhere in the South. We knew it. But for me, it was always a sense of, okay, this could be it. I carried that. I always thought about that. And I may not have mentioned it, but that would have always been in the back of my mind. Because just like how I sat there with you guys learning about it, I started to think about, okay, Stevie, do you really realize what you're signing up for?
Yeah, like I ain't signed up to get shoot at from a plane.
Yeah, like this could actually be happening.
Right.
This could happen.
Right.
Like, this is what you signed up for. And I always carry it with me. Like, we're in an era where we don't have those type of things, thank God. The closest we get is probably like with a fishing vessel or something along that line. But this is why every time you perform your duty as a Marine, you take it serious. Because it can very well be your last day.
Your last day, yeah.
Serving your country.
Do you then think that we have to kind of figure out a way, and maybe this is a project for you, the offsprings of the crew of the HMBS Flamingo. But do you think that maybe we have to figure out a way then to ensure that the story is documented, to cause there to be more, sensitivity to the incident that is May 10th, 1980? I can tell you this. I never wanted to go to college, right, CG? Mm-hmm. And if you're just joining me, CG Amanda Neely is my guest. She is the daughter of the longest-serving surviving member of the HMBS Flamingo, the most decorated man in the uniform. I should have had with me Jason Roll joining you this morning, CG, but he's in Turks and Caicos, and we're having some difficulties getting through to his phone. But she joins me this morning, and we're talking. We're ending the series now of the HMBS Flamingo May 10th edition. And CG, I just wonder, how do we document it in a way that is going to make it timeless? Because here's what I've realized. The survivors do not want to talk about this story. I can tell you that it has been, and I have to send great appreciation to people like your dad, people like Mr. Curry, and of course, people like Mr. Anthony Allens, who had at the very beginning didn't want to talk. But, through God's grace and time, I kind of got it out of him to give me an interview. And I'm just trying to figure out how do we galvanize this story in a way that it's told so that my son, who is younger than your son, knows the story, and so that his son, who will be younger than our sons, know the story, and that the story is one that lives on and on and on. Because the general consensus is, it's been 41 years, and nothing's ever really been done. But I am of the opinion that it is never too late to do a good thing. And I'm just trying to figure out, how do we go about getting it done? Do you ever give that thought?
Yes. We've talked about it, my siblings and I. We've all spoken about thinking of ways to get this out there. Because believe it or not, Leyvon, there are still some persons who don't know or are not aware of the full story of the sinking of the HMBS Flamingo. Mm-hmm. So, of course, it's going to take what the survivors give to us. Mm-hmm. But we have the force. They are now documenting. They have a whole heap of stuff now that you can go and you can get, and it's all organized, and it's easier now. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of compiling that information and getting it out there.
That's what I was about to tell you. I was about to tell you that I never wanted to go to college, so I went as an old man, right? And I remember sitting down my first semester in college, and I was sitting there with children that were, by far younger than me. The joke of it is, I remember telling someone that I graduated in 2002, and they told me that in 2002 they were in K2. It was at that moment I said to myself, obviously God has me in this place for a purpose, and I have to figure it out. But the thing that was amazing to me was I sat in that classroom with some seniors. It was a history class, actually. And these people were getting ready to leave college. And when given a history assignment, of course, the normal things would be done. We wrote an assignment on Janet Bostwick. Someone did an assignment on Ivy Dumont. Someone did an assignment on Gerald Cash. Someone did. And I sat there the entire time thinking to myself, is there anybody around here that is even remotely aware? And so I did a small piece on the HMBS Flamingo, but I can tell you that trying to find the information, it's not in the archives. Mr. Arnold Wilson, if you don't know him, you should probably look him up, has probably the best chronological cataloging of the entire event. Like, he has every single news clipping ever printed reference the HMBS Flamingo. And outside of that, it was an arduous, onerous kind of undertaking trying to piece together the story. And I think that's kind of what led me in the direction I'm going in now with trying to verbalize it over the airwaves so that people can hear it and familiarize themselves and know the names and know the incident and know the year and the day and the date and when did it take place and what were the overarching issues at that time and then what were the resulting issues at that time, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe, CG, that we have an obligation to try and get it done. I'm just trying to figure out how do people like yourself that are even closer to the incident than I am consider it when you consider the future of the story and how it will be remembered or how it will be told. What kind of thought do you give to that?
Yeah.
Are you there? Is she there? I think we lost her. CG, are you there? Let's take a break, Kermit. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. I think I have CG Amando on the line with me. She's the daughter of Whitfield Neely, the most decorated man in the uniform. We'll be back after the break.
In life, there are always challenges. Today, we find ourselves having to be more self-sufficient, socially aware, and technically savvy. At J.S. Johnson, we are committed to our customers by providing cost-effective insurance solutions. No matter what your insurance needs, we will always be here for you. Call 397-2100 or visit jsjohnson.com. J.S. Johnson Insurance Agents and Brokers, giving you peace of mind.
Preparing for a hurricane can make all the difference in safeguarding the lives of family, friends, and neighbors. By knowing what action you should take, you can reduce the effects of a hurricane disaster. Get all the facts of the potential of having insurance, impact-resistant windows, home emergency power, essential supplies, and a lot more before the storm. After the storm, where to purchase building or cleaning supplies, waste disposal, medical care, and more. The Nassau Guardian's Hurricane Guide will help you make sure everyone knows what to do in the event a hurricane approaches. Take advantage of this double insertion opportunity, plus 15 commercials on Star 106 hits. Contact us today at 302-2300. That's 302-2300, or your account executive. Will you be prepared?
Meet Jackie. Jackie's a hard worker with a steady income, but she has a personal loan and multiple credit cards to pay off. To keep her account current, Jackie opted for a loan from Fidelity Bank to consolidate her debt into one monthly payment and earn interest on a built-in savings account. Be like Jackie. Call 356-7764 to book a complimentary financial coaching session. Fidelity also offers virtual assistance. Fidelity, we're good for you.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with me. I love that hymn. I mean, it just makes me, when I hear it, I want to pick up a sword and just go to war. That's what I want to do kind of every time I hear it. I want to call their names for you again so that you know their names, so that I can kind of engrave it into your psyche so that you will never forget their names and that you will be able to call their names as often as you do the names of other heroes around the world. And their names are Amos Roll, Anthony Allen, Wilfred Sands, Peterson James, Denzel Clark, Eugene Thompson, Gregory Curry, Whitfield Neely, Oscar Miller, Anthony A.K. Russell, Leo Kirby, John Wallace, Cladwell Farrington, Willard Saunders, Trevor Sands, and of course the faithful four, Fenric Stirrup, David Tucker, Austin Smith, and Edward Williams. I'm supposed to have, I don't know, I think my call dropped again, Kermit. C.G. Neely was my guest this morning. She joined me this morning. She's the daughter of Captain Whitfield Neely. And the phone lines are open. You can feel free to give me a call. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Or you can text me on 422-4796. Text right here says, good day. They can do a documentary like Netflix. People need to know because it's not being told in schools. I have a call on the line. Let's take the call. Good morning, caller. You're on. Caller, you there?
Hey, what's going on, man?
All is well, buddy.
Man, excellent show. I mean, one thing, baby, I love being with these people. Be it good, be it bad, be it negative, of course. I mean, it all had an impact on our lives at some point, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I have always intrigued with things concerning our defense force, you know, because people don't see us as I mean, they've been on a military force or anything to reckon with, but that's our form of military to protect our borders. And I just want to send a shout out and a kudos to all those who may still be alive, who got a part to play that day. The lady who was on the phone, her dad, from what I understand, I think if I'm correct, he would still be a surviving member.
He's still alive, yeah.
We may not see them as heroes, but we don't see them by face, we don't know them by recognition, but, they would go down in the annals of history as those that protected the borders with their life, with their blood, sacrificing all that they swore to sacrifice with integrity and with diligence. The gentleman that you said is the historian. Can I get his name again? I don't know if I can call you off air. I'll probably get a contact for him.
Sure, his name is Arnold Wilson.
What is his name?
Arnold Wilson.
And if I wanted to find him, contact him, is there somebody I could reach out to him?
Leave your number with my producer. I'll get him in contact with you.
I would appreciate that.
No problem. Okay. Yeah, his name is Arnold Rap Wilson. I think he's one of the big time softball players around this place. So yeah, I can get you into contact with him. All right, let me read a couple of these text messages. This one here says, great show as usual. Your guest should pitch the idea of her story to Universal Studios. They could make millions off of a movie. Tell us Samuel Jackson could play the role of her father. Well, I don't know. Samuel Jackson is an old man now, and Whitfield Neely at the time would have been a 19-year-old boy when the HMBS Flamingo was sunk. So I think you'd at least need a younger person than Samuel L. Jackson. Maybe Samuel L. Jackson could play Whitfield Neely as Whitfield Neely the man now, because they're around the same age. And they look the same. They both wear no facial hair and wear their clothes completely squared away. If you've ever met the skipper, he's always completely squared away. Shoes at the high buff, pants right at the bridge of the shoe, lip, pants, belt, all at the navel button. I mean, he looks like the standard of Britannia, actually. Okay, so in case you want to know how these men got in service, right? Several of them, and it is amazing how life kind of does this thing where the universe puts people together somehow in a hodgepodge way, all to suffer the same fate or to enjoy the same glories of life, right? And so the eldest person in the crew would have been, of course, Mr. Amish Roll, who was a former police Marine, transitioned into the Defense Force, became a senior commander, or by the time of his retirement, left as a senior commander, and he would have been the commanding officer. Anthony Allens would have been a direct entry. I think he said he came from AF Adderley, went to Britannia Naval College, came back as a sub-lieutenant, became the executive officer of the Flamingo. And when he left, he would have left the service as a captain. I think he, too, has 4 medals, the inauguration, traumatic, gallantry, and the long service. Wilfred Saunders, I think he died early, but he was also a direct entry. I don't know which school he came from. Mr. Peterson James came from the Police Marines, as did Mr. Gregory Curry, who also came from the Police Marines. Both men left as Force Chief Petty Officers. Peterson James left in 1984. Mr. Gregory Curry left sometime after that. I think it was 2011 when he left. And then, of course, there's Denzel Clark, who was also a police Marine and left as a Force Chief Petty Officer. And he and Mr. Curry left around the same time. All of them are holders of the Traumatic Medal. And then there are the members of Entry 2, which was Eugene Thompson and Trevor Sands. And why is my phone not working? And who else was in Entry 2? Yeah, so Eugene Thompson and Trevor Sands, those two were squad mates. Both men were on the HMBS Flamingo, and then there were the members of Entry 3, which would have been John Wallace and Fenric Stirrup, and then Cladwell Farrington would have been from Entry 1. And so you see, this was a interesting mix of people, right? An interesting grouping of guys that kind of all came together to meet their fate on this May 10th. And the reason I do this, the reason I am doing it, is because someone has to tell the story. Someone has to ensure that we catalog the story. And we live in a very digital world now where not everybody will get the opportunity to read what's in the newspaper. Like I said, if you want to see a cataloging of the incident, Mr. Arnold Wilson is the best person I can think about. He has it completely cataloged. But hopefully we have enough accounts digitally by audio that people can actually revert to in the time of need, and they can actually reach for the story and have the story told, and we can start to see it in our social studies, and we can start to see it in our college history assignments and things of the sort. And that, in my estimation, will kind of get it together. So it may have been a bit laborious that I have gone on at such length about the Flamingo from the 29th, I think it was, of April we began. And like I tell you, I want you all to join me on Monday, because I think I have the crowning interview in the HMBS Flamingo story. No, it's not going to be Amos Roll, because, he's now deceased and no longer with us. And of course, the Minister of National Security would have been Darrell Roll, who is also now deceased and no longer with us. But I'm of the opinion that I have the next best thing. And of course, Mr. Eddie Hanna, I don't even know how to get in contact with him, but he would have been the acting prime minister at the time of the incident, because Sir Lyndon Pinling would have been out of country. The country would have been about 6 years and some silvers. The Royal Bahamas Fencers at the time would have only been, I think they were inaugurated in March of 79, and this incident would have happened in May of 80. And so, we got a call on the line. Let's take the call. Good morning, caller. You're on.
Good morning, Leyvon Miller.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I want to thank you for getting us to relive this, to reenact this. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't know it was all of this. Like, this is a Netflix story, or we just tell this story. 24 hours of Cuban terror. Literally, they was traumatized. Mm-hmm. On land and at sea. Those Cubans wanted to be a no story or a one-sided story. Mm-hmm. And some Cubans that find them at sea, they would have killed all of them. No witness. Mm-hmm. This never happened. But God forbid it that they was able, the captain was navigated with outdoor lights. Mm-hmm. With a cigarette smoke. Yeah. He got a Cuban boat. I didn't his boat even.
No. A vessel that he had no knowledge of. And if you remember Mr. Curry, I think it was Mr. Curry that said that when they got on the Cuban vessel, the vessel just was going round and round and round and round in circles.
Yeah.
And it was Dusty Miller, actually, who reached into the bilge. And if you've ever seen the bilge, nobody wants to put their hand in there. It's disgusting. Yeah. But he reached down into the bilge and somehow found the pin for the steering gear. Yeah, for the steering gear, and was able to align the steering gear. Yeah.
This story must be told as a story, or the Netflix. It's a story. This is a drama story. 24 hours of Cuban terror. 12 on land and 12 at sea. Mm-hmm. That the Cubans wanted to be a one-side. Now, this is Raul Castro. Mm-hmm. He was charged with all the military. It was his call. He ain't dead. Mm-hmm. And really go find the Cubans if you could. Go call the Cuban ambassador. Ask him if the people are still alive. Mm-hmm.
Well, I have the names of who the ambassador would have been. I still can't find the name of the actual captured Cubans. I'm looking for that.
Yeah, I mean, like, we just hide. This is a story we should hide. This is a story. The Christians should have made a mistake and called election on. It's like December the 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. That caused the U.S. to drop the bomb. Yeah. Pearl Harbor Day with 11 I think one more person left that's still alive. Mm-hmm. He's 100 and something years old. Like, it's made a attempt to be like a part of our history from now till we all dead.
Appreciate you, Robert. Thank you very much. Let's take another call, Kermit. Good morning, caller. You're on.
Hey, Kermit.
Leyvon.
Oh, sorry. How you doing?
I'm good.
This Chris Justillion calling, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just sent him a piece of music, the Kermit that I composed about the sinking of the HMBS Flamingo, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you could check with him and if it's possible to play it, because I think it depicts that date, what happened.
Okay.
I just emailed it to him, and if you want to talk to me, I could give you my number too, because I wrote a whole series of music about. It's called the Bahama Island Suite, and one of the movements of the music, the composition, was the sinking of the HMBS Flamingo.
I'd appreciate that. Hold the line. Give your number to my producer. I'll get in contact with you sometime between now and the end of the day. We have another call, Kermit? No. All right. I have a text right here that says, tell your caller, don't disrespect them people by saying their story could go to Netflix. Their story is going to go to the big screen, or it will not be told at all. Well, I guess, we'll take Netflix in the short scope. We will take the big screen in the big scope, I guess. I don't know. I want to call their names one more time though, because I'm almost out of time. Amish Roll, Anthony Allens, Wilfred Sands, Peterson James, Denzel Clark, Eugene Thompson, Gregory Curry, that is, Whitfield Neely, Oscar Dusty Miller, Anthony A.K. Russell, Leo Kirby, John Wallace, Cladwell Farrington, Willard Saunders, Trevor Sands, Frederick Stirrup, David Tucker, Austin Smith, Edward Williams. Anyway, I see I'm almost fresh out of time. I don't hear my hymn yet. Give me the hymn, Kermit. You know what I say every Friday. It's Friday, people. Do everything in your power to make sure that you don't kill anybody this weekend. Greater than that, do even more in your power to ensure that nobody don't kill you. And I'll see you right back here on Monday. I'm Leyvon Miller. It's Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. They're a station for fresh news and smart talk, so don't move. They've got the news. It's next.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.